Hey, how's it going? Hard Talk Radio, your host, MrDeadman. Starting off with a different sort of theme tonight. For those who play Castlevania, you know what that is. Very fun game. Okay, anyway, our guest tonight is David R. Musser. How's it going, man?
It's going wonderful. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, it's good to have you. And the reason why you are on here tonight is because you know something about shadow people. And I like talking about shadow people. I like getting to know who the Hat Man is. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I always start off with one question for all my guests. Who are you and what do you do?
I am David Musser, a recent indie author. I actually found out I was an indie author because if you self-publish, you're indie. So I'm very hip now. I'm an indie author, and the inspiration for my first book, Keeping the Light, was actually inspired by an event that happened to me when I was a child. We can get into that later, but it has to do with the subject matter of shadow people and the Hat Man. So I'm very happy to be here.
Nice. And you say you're an indie author. You're very hip. You drink IPAs now too? You like the hoppy beer?
No, I still haven't got into the IPAs yet. So I guess I'm not quite that hip. I'm doing the Grey Goose versus the Absolute though. So that's a switch for me.
That's nice. Yeah. See, I can never really get into the IPAs. I can't stand the hoppiness. I can't. I'm always I'm more of a stout.
I haven't found a good IPA I liked yet, but there's still time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
I guess so.
Drinking.
Yeah. I guess so. All right. So enough of beer talk, I suppose. But I mean, and that's what happens on the show. I get off topic, talk about whatever comes up. We might entertain the beer talk after this. But so you've been writing for a while, and you told a true story based on your experience about shadow people, about the paranormal. So let's get into that. First off, how did this happen?
Yeah, so it was one where the book came about by me having a conversation with one of my cousins, Megan Anderson. She's actually the editor of my book. And what we were talking about was ghost stories and old stories from our family. My mom had 13 brothers and sisters, so very large family back then, and large history, Irish side. So a lot of different stories and things like that. And we can talk about some of those as well. And as we were talking about that, I said, there's always been a story I want to write. And it's based on something that happened to me when I was a kid, and of course, lo and behold, she agreed to edit the book, and the story's out, and it is loosely based on the actual event. Right there were no shadow peoples chasing me when I was 7 years old. They didn't kill me or anything like that. So we're not going to go into there.
Oh, wait! Are you sure the shadow people didn't kill you? I mean, how do you know that you haven't been killed already?
Well, there could be that. How do I know I'm alive, right?
Right.
The voices in my head tell me I'm not dead yet, but that I don't know. For me, the actual event. So we'll get into that first, so that we can let people know that something did happen, right? And it's very cool. And then we can talk about the research I did on shadow people, which
Sure.
is very interesting. But for me, I was a very sick kid. Right. I don't know if you remember the old croup tents and bubble boy type stuff that they had going on way back in the day.
You were a bubble boy?
I wasn't quite a bubble boy, but I was in a croup tent, which was basically they would put a plastic bag over top of a crib, and then they would blow moist air into it. Right. So it was something that for me, seeing through that clear plastic to the television was sort of my area to go to, right? I could get out there, and I was in that off and on until I was at least probably 5 or 6, and I would just run very, very high fevers, and my parents would give me ice baths and things like that, because it wasn't like we could just drive up to some pharmacy 2 minutes away, right? This was back in the day when you had your hospital in town and you had to get appointments and all that good fun stuff. So it was during one of those times where I was really sick, and I'm laying in bed, and my mom was preparing a bath for me, and I look on the wall, and I see this shadow. And of course, I do the thing you immediately see when you see a shadow. You look to the other side to see who's causing the shadow.
Right.
and there wasn't anything there, and it was looking at me, and it was one of the shadows. I a lot of the descriptions when I was doing the research were, some of them say, has red eyes, some of them say that there's no eyes and all that. For me, it was just a blank face. I couldn't make out the features of the face. Did have a long coat on, and it had the top hat that you always hear about for the shadow entity called the Hat Man.
The
Right?
Hat Man.
And of course, at the time, I'm 7 years old. I don't know. So the entity turned, and him and whatever shadow creature he was with, basically walked to the side of the one door, and walked through it. And of course, I immediately get up and go out and look, and there's nothing out there. There's no shadows out there. My mom's like, "What are you doing out of bed? The bath's not ready," that type of stuff. And I'm standing there going, I saw something.
Right.
And for me, later in life, I'm thinking about it, going, okay, probably was, sunlight off of the windshield of a truck or car driving by. That's what I've just always wrote it off as.
Sure, right, because shadows off of a truck always create a guy, a male silhouette with a hat.
Exactly. And so but I always just sort of wrote it off, right? Because I'm thinking, it was probably nothing. And I'm still alive, so that's a good thing. About 2001, Art Bell had a radio program, and on that program he had a Native American elder,
Coast to Coast, right?
Like that, yeah. What was that?
Was it Coast to Coast?
Yes, Coast to Coast.
Yeah,
yes.
Good stuff.
And he had that gentleman on there, and they were talking about shadow people, and I was listening to the episode, driving down the road, and I used to work night shift, so I was on the way to work, and I'm driving down the road, and they start to talk about the shadow people and describe them, and then they mentioned the top hat, and I'm like going, wait a second here. What I remember seeing as a kid had a top hat. So
right.
What's the deal here? And it was just an event that was very, very interesting for me, and sort of, almost life-changing when I heard about that, right? Mm-hmm. And still write it off as, hey, I was running 107-degree temperature and all that good fun stuff, but it was something where for me, it was a great inspiration for the book. And then I started doing, research on it. And, one of the things that people always say is, oh, it's sleep paralysis, right?
Paralysis, right, right. That's what they'll say.
I was wide awake the whole time. Give me a break here.
But then they'll say, see, these skeptics, they always have a way out. Then they'll say, oh, but see, your memory is faulty. People's memory is faulty, which is true. But they'll just use that excuse to throw the whole thing out, Which, just would interject real fast. Look, Mr. Musser has been he's been kind enough and generous enough to give out a free copy of his book, Keeping the Light. If you want a free copy of this book, I'm going to get one. But if you want one, we need to hit 10 likes. Okay? Let's hit 10 likes on this live stream right now. We hit 10 likes. What I'll do is I'll do a little raffle thing. I'll just put people's names on the list and draw someone, and you'll be able to get a free book, okay? But it has to be in the States. I mean, I don't think Mr. Musser's going to pay for shipping to Australia. Come on now. Come on. That's like $40 shipping right there. Come on. Yeah, let's do that. All right? Anyway, so yeah, about the shadow people, because this is fascinating stuff, because a lot of people talk about this. My wife, she's not really much in the paranormal, but she talks about that. She grew up seeing shadow people. There's other people that see shadow people. And the Hat Man, too. A lot of people have the shared story of seeing this man with a top hat. Usually, like, in their low moments. Like, the low moments of their life, with drug addiction and all that. They see this omen, the Hat Man, coming to pay them a visit. That shake them up.
And it's one of those things that, there's a lot of the research I've done talked about the Hat Man and talked about shadow people, and basically, some of them think that they're, sucking people's life force away, if you will, sucking their energy away, and making somebody who may have no other issues, if you will, all of a sudden be more depressed than they normally would be. And it's one of those things of which is the cause and which is the effect, right? Is seeing the shadow person the effect of the depression, and or is it you're depressed because you have a shadow person staring at you all night long while you're trying to sleep. I saw a very interesting podcast called Meth and Magic, and it was talking about methamphetamines and shadow.
That happens quite a bit. Yep, meth heads, they will see shadow people. That's the go-to joke. I haven't made that yet. The stream.
Really?
Yeah, you kind of did it for me already.
That I had no clue on that.
That really, if you want to see shadow people, you could just hit meth. You're more than likely going to see them. I would not recommend that.
Any of our listeners.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Do not try that experiment at home, okay?
Exactly.
But really, like in your story, with the shadow people that you saw, like there's one thing I want to know, several things really. How did you know that the shadow entity was looking at you? Like, was there like a feeling?
Yeah. So at first, there was it was something else in the room, right? And again, like I said, high fever, all that good stuff. So I don't want people, the white coat men to come and lock me up right now. But I felt something, and I looked, and there's a shadow on the wall, and it's facing me because I can't see the face, so it's just all black or blank, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But when it turns, I see a profile of the shadow person, or of the Hat Man, right, or both of them really. And so I see the profile and the long coat, like you always hear about, and the top hat. Some people even say that at one point he was wearing a fedora, and I'm like, okay, I guess he was styling that day.
Is a fedora? It wears a fedora. Okay.
Hat. But for me, there was something in the room, and when I looked, there it was, and then immediately you look to the other side, and it's like, hey, what's going on here? And at the time, I was wide awake, so I wasn't like I was asleep. In fact, when you're running that high of a fever, you don't really feel like sleeping.
No, I imagine not. No,
it was something that I was just waiting for that ice bath, if you will. So it was very it was a very troubling experience for me, as far as for what I remember at the time, because I go out to the hall and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Where did whatever it was go?
Did you ever find out where it went?
Never found out where it went, and every time I would go into the house after I moved out, I would always look in that area just to see if there was something there. It's
Wow.
like you just go there and look just to see, and I never saw anything again. Never, I wish I would. Right, I would love to see any of the paranormal stuff now, but
Right.
For me, that was my experience, and it was very very troubling for a kid, and. But it's something that a lot of the research I did as well, they were trying to blame it on Freddy Krueger. Well, because he wore the hat and all that good stuff. Yeah. And they're like, oh, that's just, it got into people's psyche. I'm like, okay, Freddy Krueger came out about 15 years later. So unless I wrote that book first, it was not
right. And I see what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to, that's another way skeptics try to just put the blame on something else, or the excuse, and they're trying to say, oh well, it's because shadow people was a shared experience. A lot of people have talked about it, the same thing. They're like, okay, there must be something, like maybe a media, maybe a movie or TV show or something that was implanted in the psyche, which that sounds all like scientific and all that. All it means is something that we've all been exposed to, grew up, whatever, and so we can all kind of understand the reference. It becomes a cultural reference. It's kind of like how you see the red hat with the M, like we all think Mario, because that's just what it is. It's a shared experience, a shared symbol that we can relate to, I guess. But obviously, your experience happened before Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, and it could have been something else, right? And again, I'm just making sure the white coat people don't come get me. But the big thing is, for me, I was into horror TV shows back then. You know, it was one of the ones where my mom loved a TV show called Dark Shadows. I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
if you remember the original on that one, but it was something where I'd watch it, you know, every day with her when I came home from school, and you know, it was just something. It was a great experience. You know, basically it was a vampire soap opera, yeah, before Twilight came out, right? And so it was very good. So, and we'd watch all the other, you know, horror shows that would come on, the creature feature on, what was it, Friday or Saturday night, and so it was a good childhood that way. But that event didn't strike me as being a horror event, if you will, right? There was no, you know, wasn't didn't see a big knife or a scythe or anything else. It was just, hey, here's this shadow looking at you.
Did
And you know, unless one of my brothers was playing a joke and never told me about it, I believe I saw it when I was young.
so in that experience that you had seeing the shadow person, I mean, did you feel any fear?
I didn't really feel fear. I felt something was there, and it was one where I just, you know, something wasn't right, right, and that's how I remember it. But it was just, it was very, you know, I think I was more impacted from it in a negative way when I heard it described on Art Bell's show, right? When I heard them talking about it and heard them talking about the hat, that was where I was like, wait a second here, and so for me that event just went straight into the story, because that was just something that was such a powerful event, you know, real or imagined. It happened, you know. So I'm going to stick with that.
Interesting.
And
You know,
I wasn't on meth at 7. I can promise you
yeah,
that.
yeah. So not no meth at 7, no Freddy Krueger, no
Yes.
Jeepers Creepers, none of that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true.
So really it makes me wonder why this entity was even wearing a hat. Like why does the top hat? Why is that a thing for the Hat Man?
I could not find any research that explained that from the if it's real perspective, right? I got all the research from the naysayers and stuff like that, but from the if it's real, why the hat? I just couldn't find anything at all. I
Hmm.
did find where some think that the Hat Man himself actually controls the other shadows, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and supposedly the others are his minions. And some people even say that the Hat Man is a jinn,
A,
and
a
or a
gin,
genie, if you
like a
will.
genie. Yeah.
Yeah, genie, and that as a genie, he, you know, bestows good fortune on some for a price, and that the price is to be paid later. And unfortunately for those that are paying the price, it's they actually become shadow people as well. So they're all his minions or lackeys, or you know, you pick your term. But I thought that was an interesting take on shadow people, and of course that was from, you know, from other countries and stuff like that, because it's this phenomenon is something that's around the world. It's
Around the
not
world,
just
it's
something
shared.
that's, you know, was in my house, right?
Right. That the genie aspect is very interesting. That definitely is a pretty good indicator that this happened around the world. Um, but it's also like, why? Like that's bizarre. Like, oh, so the shadow people will grant wishes if you can capture one.
Yeah, well, according to the research I was doing on that, they help people with good fortune. So it's not exactly a wish, but it's your day is better. You think about things better. You're more creative, that type of thing, and that they're helping to influence you in a positive way if they want, versus if they don't want, they're influencing you in a negative way.
Mr. Musser, this is
And
becoming a dangerous stream here. We joked about how meth leads to shadow people, how you can see it. Now we're talking about how shadow people lead to good fortune. I think people are going to start connecting the dots here. Uh, wow. Okay. But no, seriously, though. Like, how, what's their. Now I'm going to sound like a skeptic here, but what's the proof, if you will, that the Hat Man controls these other shadow figures?
a lot of the videos that people were citing in those different documentaries and stuff like that, because I did a ton of research for me, if you will, right? I was never really a studious person, so I did a ton of research for me into this, and a lot of that was different videos, different documentaries. Couldn't find any, there was a couple books on it, but not that many. A lot of the books and stuff were going towards the demon aspect of things versus the jinn or the shadow person. All of them are trying to basically say, whatever their theory is, that's what it is, right? Is it the Nephilim? Is it something like that? And I'm going to write a theory that it's a fallen angel, right? And that's what people do. But for the person who was saying that he was controlling them, there were some videos where the shadow person with the hat man would always be walking in front, and the others would be following.
Wait a second. These are videos. Not like Photoshop stuff, but like that they actually captured the shadow guy.
They say they're real videos, right? I don't know. It's one of there's security cam videos and all this stuff. It's sort of like the Bigfoot, right? You have to decide when you're watching it if you really want to believe it's real and just drink the Kool-Aid and be happy about it, or if it's something that you're going to be a skeptic and say, oh, that's fake, right? So all I'm saying is when I was doing research for writing a fiction book, that these people some of the people were saying it was real. And
right.
Some of the videos were like security cameras, home security cameras. Some of them you could really tell that they were fake, right? Because it's the people are sitting at dinner, and then all of a sudden the dad runs over to the TV and looks at the thing, and I'm like, okay, why would the dad have the security camera on the big TV in the living room? Right?
Yeah, that's my problem with those things. Which, by the way, guys, thank you for the 10 likes. What I'm going to do, there's an app or a website that does it for me. Is I'll put the stream link there, and it runs through everyone that's in the chat, and it'll randomly select someone, and boom, that person. I'll let Mr. Musser know who that person is, and you'll get a free copy of the book. Okay.
Awesome. I appreciate the likes, and again, thank you for having me on the show.
No problem. Which, by the way, hey, let's take a time right here now and plug that book. Keep in the Light. Okay, let's plug that book real fast.
Excellent. So Keep in the Light is my first book. It's a novella, right? It's not quite a novel. It's 34,000 words because you got to get 40,000 before it's a novel. But oh well, I got 34,000, and I'm like, okay, this first story ended. So it's part of a trilogy, and in this there is a young woman who's in college, and she's trying to decide on her major. She's trying to decide if the guy she likes at college is worth anything, or if she should marry the farm boy at her house, next door neighbor, if you will. And she ends up coming in contact with this shadow creature, and for me, the way shadow creatures are is once you notice them, then they notice you. So if you just go through life being, young, dumb, and not paying any attention, then most likely you're never going to get, harmed by a shadow creature. But in mine, once you notice them, they notice you. And so she goes through and, tries to keep her and her family alive. And it's very fast paced. And I've already finished the next two in the series from the first draft perspective, if you will. My cousin Megan is working on those to edit those, and it's something that we're planning on releasing. Maybe the next one in March of next year. But it was a very interesting process going through the self-publishing thing on Amazon, and I'm even doing the Kindle version of, or excuse me, not the Kindle, but the Audible version of it, where a gentleman by the name of Andy McCabe is working on the Audible, doing the voiceover for it. And the first time that I heard his voice reading my story, it just made it all real. And I was like, wow, this is going to be good.
That's cool.
So I can't wait till that comes out. So I have to thank both Megan and Andy for what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a really cool experience. I mean, to hear your voice come to life like that, have someone read it, it's really nice. And we can kind of go into the little detail what your experience of publishing it was like, being taking the indie approach. They're going through KDP, you know, and that's a tool that's rarely available to everyone. And a lot of these indie guys, a lot of indie publishers, they use that tool or another tool that's very similar called Ingram Spark. I mean, as someone who, I'll say it this way, I used to call myself a publisher, but anymore it's kind of like the publishing scene's changing. Like the same tools that a lot of these indie publishers use, you can use. And Musser's one example of that. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that experience, and then we'll go a little bit more on the shadow people, because I have a bunch of questions. Anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it was a very interesting process, and of course, the first one we did everything 100% wrong. You know, it was one where we start. I start writing, and every chapter I finished, I would send to Megan, and she would go through the editing process and send it back. And then while I'm working on the third chapter, I'm going back and reviewing the first chapter. And it was just something where I think we spent a lot of time going back and forth, especially where towards the middle, she's like, well, wait a second, this is going to change how we're doing it throughout the book. So these next two, I think we've got a much better process.
Right.
So doing that, and then the KDP tools are just amazing for creating the actual online version of it. And it is available on Kindle Unlimited, because I said to myself, if somebody's paying for Kindle Unlimited, then we're going to let them have the book for free, right? And then if not, it is for pay, right? Because I am trying to make a little money here, right? We all are. Mm-hmm. I finished it on the KDP, and then I started looking at the print direct stuff. And I was like, wow, I wish I would have done this. So again, taking lessons learned from the first time in the print direct, now going into KDP. And it looks like KDP's changed their tool a little bit. So from that first draft, or the first time we uploaded to KDP, now I think I can publish to both print and to the online version, to Kindle. Whereas when I first got into it, you couldn't do that. You had to have it formatted in Word two different ways, right? With the actual, size of the Word document, the bleed, and all that good fun stuff that I'm sure you know from your publishing days.
Yeah, from my experience, I usually go with like a PDF, because when it comes to doing the paperback version, it's PDF. With the ebook version, I'm very anal about how I want my ebook to look. So I'll even use like additional tools like Calibre, whatever, where you can kind of go in and edit it, and you didn't make like an EPUB and a MOBI file, and that MOBI file is like pretty much direct. Like what you have in there is how it's going to look for the most part. But that's like little details that can kind of, I mean, if you don't know the publishing stuff, it kind of like, we're talking about, it's too detailed. People get lost in that.
Yeah, I had no idea of that. And then after it's live, I'm like, okay, people just should buy it. Simple. It's done. Here's what I hope is a good story out there.
Right.
People should just be buying it, like hotcakes, right? And it's like, what do you mean I have to advertise and figure out advertising? And that's actually where we met, was on one of the Facebook groups. It's like, here, promote your book and see. And I'm on Goodreads now as well. And I actually had my first like on Goodreads from somebody I didn't know. And I'm like, yes, finally.
Right.
I'm a star.
Man, you mean I have to market my book? I have to let people know that it's out there, and much more than just my mom, my dad, and my family, whatever. Oh, I have to be like one of those guys
on Facebook. I was hoping that all my family would buy.
Right.
Some of them don't read.
Yeah. But see, the angle here, a lot of people don't read, but the angle is, what is the book about, and does it interest them? Like we're talking about paranormal stuff, like shadow people, and that interests a lot of people. It does. They may be interested in reading that, even though they don't read it themselves. So you did a lot of research on shadow people for this book. Is there anything else that we haven't covered on the shadow people?
Yeah, so the only other thing, two things really. One was, I had never heard about this until I started researching the book, and now I'm just creeped out by them. I did include something like it in the book, but it's shadow spiders. And basically it's something where, people will see a spider that's not really there. And then they're looking for that spider half the night. And the reality was it was just a paranormal creature. And I'm like, that's kind of almost more creepy than a regular spider.
Right. I'd be more scared of a shadow spider than a shadow person. A shadow spider, like a shadow Black Widow?
Yeah.
Fuck that noise.
Well, they didn't say what type of spider. They just said shadow spider, and I'm like, well, that's just just the thought of that crawling across your ceiling, seeing a big shadow of a spider going across your ceiling. Just,
oh no!
Kind of creeped me out.
No, man, no. Shadow spiders. Next thing you can tell me, there's shadow roaches.
Well, no, but there were shadow snakes. That was another one that was a big thing. Shadow snakes. And,
a shadow snake. Snakes don't have souls. That's not possible. There's not possible.
And then I did like how some of the things explained sort of unnatural deaths, because again, it's people taking one theory and applying something else to it, right? And, shadow people being responsible for like spontaneous human combustion.
Oh, that's why. I thought it was. I saw that South Park episode. I thought it was because we're holding in our farts. I thought that was the reason why,
Exactly. No, I thought that was interesting though. So there may be some of that in the book, but it's just one where, those types of things were things I'd never thought about, before I started doing the research.
So I wonder if the shadow spider creates like a shadow spider web to catch spider flies.
And I'm probably going to walk into it when I, go outside or something like that.
Like, it makes me wonder.
There's shadow spider web on my face.
Like this stuff. Like, you think some people kind of like make this stuff up on purpose? Like they kind of troll, they kind of mess.
I think they almost have to, right? They almost have to because of some of the stuff, and unless it's real, right? I mean, we have to throw that out there. But as far as for as much of it's out there, I can't, it's not restless leg syndrome. It's not sleep paralysis. I'm sorry. I'm just, too many people are seeing the same thing. Now I could go towards the, some type of, something we've all seen, right? Something that's sort of, in our, memory, if you will. Maybe it was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, or maybe it was the, Mr. Hyde, right? Maybe that was where the hat came from, right?
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. It could be that.
What it was about the time, but people have been seeing those for years before that. So, but it was, it's interesting just in general. So I tried to pull as much of that as I could into it, just to creep somebody out, if you will.
Right.
Now, as part of the editing of this, one thing that was funny, I think I shared these pictures with you. My cousin was editing the book, and her TV started making a very odd sound.
Oh, really?
And she looks over at it, and there's a shadow in the picture. And no matter what channel she put it on or what was being displayed, there's this little shadow in the middle of the screen.
Just right there in the middle of the screen. Like, so either that could be a shadow or it could be the TV glitched right then and there, but was it?
Yep.
But it just appeared, like when she was editing the book.
Appeared and would not go away. And it was while she was editing the book. So again, was it just, hey, the TV was old, she needed a new one anyway? Or was it something, saying, hey, don't write this book, don't get this book out there? Who knows? If
what kind of TV
the controversy of saying it was real would sell more copies, then yeah, his shadow person destroyed that TV. It was aiming for her computer, hit the TV.
I remember seeing that image. What kind of TV was it? Like an LCD?
I don't know that.
It's like a newer model, like a flat screen or something.
It was a little bit older. It wasn't quite a flat screen, I don't think, but it wasn't like the new narrower flat screens. I would say it was probably about 5 to 6 years old, something like that would have been my guess. So,
man, usually when TVs go out, they don't just like make like this black shadow part like right there. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah. It was weird. It was, and it was on, any image that would come up on the screen, it was there. So
did it ever go away, like spontaneously?
No, they had to get a new TV, unfortunately. So
oh man, dang.
So, yeah.
The theory here, it could be the shadow person messed with the TV, Maybe the TV went out on its own. Maybe it's
They
connected with your
didn't wanna-
book. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to experience this, you want to run this experiment, get a copy of Keep in the Light by David Musser, okay? And read it. If something happens to your TV, then there's a connection. However, Mr. Musser is not liable. Okay.
Yes. Mr. Musser and MrDeadman are not liable for any TV damage.
All right.
Yeah, we're not liable for anything that happens to your Kindle or anything.
I also got to remind you guys, because what we talked about earlier in the stream, don't go smoking meth, trying to catch shadow people, thinking that's going to give you good luck and fortune. Not going to happen. Okay. Not going to happen. Oh, got a link for his book. I do have a link for his book. Let me drop that in the chat.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, well, I do that. Now,
And
tell us a little bit.
I have a question. I have a question for you, if that's allowed on the show.
Oh, no, you can't ask questions.
Oh no. Okay, sorry.
No,
I want to
you
get
can ask
protocol right.
You can ask
I
questions.
double stamped or triple stamp or whatever it was. So for me, I wrote the first 3 very quickly, 3 novellas. Stopped each one about 30-some thousand pages, 30-some thousand words, because it just felt right each time. And I said, okay, I'm going to tackle one of the classics. So I decided I was going to redo Frankenstein, and I was going to do it with like nanites or something like that. And where the person's brain who was in major control of it was still hearing the souls from the other appendages. And I was thinking that would be cool. Yeah, I thought it would be a cool thing to do. Well, I got about 8 chapters into it, and then my brain just fried. So just sort of, I wasn't sure which way to go and all that sort of stuff. And I might go back to it eventually. But I was just curious if you ever had any books that broke you for a little bit as you were either editing or writing them.
Oh, Have you ever had a book or story I was working on that like broke me as I was working on it? Well, kind of, yeah. There's this. Well, it's not a happy story, okay? There's a very short story. It's very short. It's actually in my short story collection called Deadhead. And I think it's one of the first stories. It's called Die. And it's about a guy. He's at his, like, you can say it's a birthday party, at his family's house, whatever. And everyone at the table, all his family members want him to die. Like, it's just, they're just confronting him for all his bullcrap and lies and all this stuff. And it's just very vulgar, a lot of vulgarity, a lot of profanity, a lot of slurs being used towards him because he's like a total piece of shit. He feels like it. And it's like, if you read that and if you feel for that guy, you're gonna it's gonna be a bad time. It might put you in a bad headspace. Writing afterwards, I was like, holy hell, man! I need to step away for a little bit. I just took like this emotional dump, this emotional diarrhea here. What the hell, man?
That's funny. Yeah. Now the thing too, like, so each story on mine, the first, second, and third have a different major villain, if you will. So the first one's shadow people, of course, who go throughout all of them. The second one is more of a possession type story. Still the shadow people's lingering in the background and all that good stuff. And the third one was about the evil that people do. So in, just general evil people. So in, both the first two, I mean, I've got horrible things happening to people, right? I've got somebody whose fingers are dissolving because of shadow eating them and so just nasty stuff, right? Horrible. And those didn't get me. But on the evil that people do, there's one where a guy works in a nursing home and he just likes to break the fingers of his patients and just says, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Such and Such. You just must have fell down," and then he's twisted and breaking the fingers. And I'm like going, okay, that got me more as an author than anything else. And I had to, clear my headspace as well afterwards, because I'm like, this is just, and that, I took some of that from true events, that I've read in the news and things like that over the years. But that was one where that was actually harder writing the evil that people do than monsters devouring people, if that makes sense.
Right, right. And I found those stories to be much more, one, relatable, and two,
Yes.
more disturbing because of that. Because we're no longer reading about monsters and vampires and Dracula's. Well, that's the same thing. You know, Frankenstein's monsters and werewolves and all that stuff. We're reading about real shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna have a lasting effect. Definitely. There was one that I read. I think a couple years ago, called Sick House by Jeff Strand. Now, in the book, it's really not that disturbing, but see, I'm used to gore. I can handle gore, at least in fiction. I can't handle blood in real life, but like in fiction, I can handle it just fine. But
Yeah.
but the author decided to take it to where the daughter would self-harm. The teenage daughter was self-harming, but in a way where she was taking scissors and cutting her eyelids. I was like, I couldn't do that. And it was like you take something and you inflict harm on something that people rarely go for, and it's like, oh god, why the eyelids? Why that? Oh.
Yeah, that's the cringe factor times 1,000. That's very good. I mean, it's it's a great visual, a horrible thing.
Yeah.
I mean, be careful how I say that. Don't want people to come and be like, oh, gee, Dave said this. Okay, here we go.
No, you're fine. You're talking on this show. A lot of stuff has been talked about. We talk about horror movies and horror books and stuff. I mean, it happens.
Well, we didn't get into the movies yet. Do you want to go there, or where do you want to go?
Sure. Let's talk about horror movies. What's your favorite horror movie?
Well, it's a slow one, and it's also my favorite book. It's Salem's Lot. I just really like how Stephen King did that, and the first movie, the miniseries, I think it was, right? That one just stuck with me over the years, and so in fact, I'm listening to the Audible version of it right now as well. So it's sort of my go-to when I'm bored. I'm like, okay, you pick your electronic device and say read Salem's Lot.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, that's good. Oh man,
if I want to go more graphic and stuff like that, just the whole Rob Zombie trilogy there with Sid Haig. That was just that was just amazing. You hated those people.
Oh yeah, of course that family. Oh yeah, you wanted to see them suffer. I mean really on the Devil's Rejects, you weren't rooting for them to survive. I was like, come on, man, when are they going to get their due? When are they going to get their due?
Exactly, but just the acting of it was just amazing as far as that goes. And what's funny is I watched the first one. I think the first one was House of a Thousand Corpses. I watched that again the other day, and there's actually some semi-famous people in it that were very young, right? And you're looking at it going, okay, that must have been that guy's first movie or second movie. So that was pretty interesting seeing some of those people in it. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was on a very popular sitcom that was out years ago.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, I gotta look at that. So someone wasn't popular at the time, but he's much popular now. Okay,
exactly.
But okay,
and I'll ask the Google. The Google will tell me.
Yeah, I like you bringing up Rob Zombie because he is a point of contention, man. People either love him or hate him, especially his movies. Oh yeah. Be like, I've had an episode where we went into whether or not Rob Zombie's a hack or not. Because people say House of a Thousand Corpses is like just Rob Zombie trying to recreate Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I think when they went down below to Dr. Satan and you saw that shit, I think, man, that's when the script flipped. Like that was fucking crazy.
Well, and the whole Captain Spaulding thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sid Haig was basically thanking Rob Zombie for bringing his career back online at age 60.
Right.
And just because of that character was just such a, we all had that clown, right? I don't even remember what the TV show was I watched as a kid, but it was one of those local TV stations that had their own clown, and the guy also played their Star Trek guy. It was Captain 20 or something like that. It was just hilarious. The guy's name was Rainn Wilson, and he's best known for The Office.
That's right.
So,
He played
so
Dwight, right? Dwight.
yeah, exactly. So, but that
Yeah.
was he was in that, and that just surprised me because I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait a second, and then also this is a good one, Walton Goggins, the
Who's
guy from Justified and The Shield
uh
and all that. He was in it as well, and
hmm,
he played a deputy. But
okay.
I did not remember that from watching it years ago to where I watched it again recently because for some reason I said, hey, I'm going to watch all three of them in a
Hmm.
row and see what happens.
Right,
And
right.
trying to get inspiration for that other book that I was working on for the evil that people do, because this
Okay.
one you can't get more than what Zombie did there.
And let me ask the chat here too. Okay. What is the best Rob Zombie movie, Chad? And for you, Mr. Musser, what is the best Rob Zombie movie?
I would have to go Devil's Rejects. I really liked that one. Uh, I liked it. I liked Three from Hell a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought he did. I thought Devil's Rejects was just perfect in how he did that. That was. I would have to say that one would be my favorite.
You know, I don't think I've seen Three from Hell yet. I haven't even seen that one yet.
Oh, you
Yeah, I
gotta
know.
watch it.
I know.
It
But I
is
think a lot of people are
Sid
gonna see
Haig's
Devil's
last,
Rejects.
last movie.
Yeah, Devil's Rejects are probably gonna come up. Probably not Halloween. I mean, what did you think of his Halloween remake?
I'm not much on those remakes. I wasn't crazy about it. It was one that I just I'm like, why are we remaking this
Right.
again? Can't we think of a new idea? I mean, it's
I'm telling you, Mr. Mustard, now I think for those who were like, oh, why did you sing Rob Zombie? I think now you just redeemed yourself because that's the popular opinion is that the Rob Zombie Halloween remake is trash. I think even in that, because there's stuff in there that's kind of interesting, like the very buff version of Michael Myers.
yes.
But then the question is, how did Michael Myers get so buff on a diet of whatever he was fed at the psych facility, which is pretty much going to be like institutionalized meals and like a little thing of milk every now and then.
Yeah.
You gotta take in a lot of protein to get that sort of build. I would imagine. I don't know.
You would think. Now, have you seen The Lords of Salem? I haven't seen that one yet. I want to, but it's just I haven't got to it yet.
No, I haven't heard good things about it. That's the thing, man. Like Lords of Salem. I like wasn't that a song on one of his albums, Lords of Salem? Lords of Salem. I thought it was a song. I liked it. If it's what I'm thinking, but no, I haven't seen the movie. Have not seen it. No. But the other thing is too, Rob Zombie's inspired by horror movies. Like the reason why he, I guess, essentially kind of recreated Texas Chainsaw Massacre with House of a Thousand Corpses, which I agree is a fun movie of his, is because that's one of his movies that he liked to watch as a kid. So he created that, but he wanted his own little spin on it.
Yeah, I mean he's a fan, right? And
Right.
that's what that's I like when that happens. When somebody's a fan of something and they create it. I mean that's sort of what why I tried to recreate Frankenstein before it blew my brain up
Right.
was because I was a huge fan of that. And thought that would be a very interesting thing to do. But I'm going to stay away from the classics for a while and then stick to my own stuff. If you hear a scratching behind me, my dog has restless leg syndrome.
Oh, your
So,
dog does. Okay. I thought
yeah,
maybe there was a shadow person behind you.
yeah. No, I hope it's not. No,
I mean,
she's black.
not to spook you out, but there is a shadow thing moving behind you. I don't know if it's a spider or a roach or. No, you're
it's.
laughing, but right behind you, like behind your
I'm
head,
not going to look. See,
not
I
gonna
told you,
look.
notice them, then they get you. So I'm not going to notice. What
Chad,
I'm
don't you
gonna
see like something on the? It's like a shadow monkey. There's a shadow
do.
monkey.
Maybe look.
You missed
I went
it.
ahead.
You missed it.
I missed it. I'll be hunting for it all night long.
Shadow monkey, man.
Shadow monkey, that'd be cool. Shadow monkey with wings, like in The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need.
Do you have a favorite horror genre?
I like the more gothic horror as far as if I had to pick. There was an old one, I don't know if you ever saw it or not, called House of Long Shadows. And it was almost a spoof on horror movies, but it was an older one. I like that sort of gothic type horror. I like the Haunting of Hill House,
Mm-hmm.
that type of movie. Those are the ones I really like. And don't get me wrong, I'll watch any of them. Right? I've watched was it Microwave Massacre or whatever it was, yeah, and all the ones that Pumpkinhead I think was another one. Right?
Pumpkinhead, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
but with the gothic horror movies, there's the atmosphere, the environment. It's hard to pull them off because you need to take. I mean, if you're going to create that, they have to pay careful attention to the environment, to the aesthetics, everything. The cinematography has to be on point because you're just trying to set a mood. You're setting a mood. You're trying to capitalize a feel, and just you can't. You're not about. It's not about showing the monster or showing gore or blood, all that. It's about the slow, gradual build up.
Yeah, and you're making the people care about the characters, and it's hard to do now in a movie, especially with everybody having their cell phone, right? Half the people are on their cell phones in a movie theater anyway, but in the movie itself, you have to have a reason for people to not have cell phones and
Right.
instant access to technology. So I think that's why some of the ones are being based, earlier on, like, this is the 80s, this is the whatever, right?
Mm.
Everybody didn't have a cell phone. But those types of movies were ones I really enjoyed.
I think the classic example, of course, for me would be like, stuff like Dracula or Nosferatu. Maybe like, what do you consider? Oh yeah, I would definitely consider Nosferatu gothic. I mean, it's very old, very ancient.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes it gothic, though. It's the imagery of it all. But that's a silent film. I mean, that's hard to it's hard to watch. I guess if you need to be I don't know. You know what? I say Nosferatu is hard to watch, but not really. Like if you want to sit down and really just see it and experience it, like. I think if you're into like the whole gothic thing, into vampires, I think you could still enjoy it even now. I mean, I can, but then again, I like horror movies and I can sit down and enjoy it. My hesitance is about, of course, people that are constantly on their phones and they, growing up on TikTok and stuff. They want that instant gratification. I don't know, but there's plenty of scenes even in that movie alone where it's like he's captivating, just his creepy look.
Exactly.
And
it takes a while for things to happen in it, but the guy's got he definitely pulls in the audience.
Yes.
Now, did you ever watch any of those old Full Moon Video things like Demonic Toys and Puppet Master and all that stuff? Were you a fan of those?
Oh, Puppet Master, yeah. Puppet Master, yeah.
I enjoyed those a lot. Those were just fun to watch, and sort of like candy, right? It's like I can just you're going to be happy after you finish watching those.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that for me, the Gothic, just bringing in that imagery, right? And like the it's House on Haunted Hill, I guess it was. The one with Liam Neeson, I think it was. Was that the right one, or did I get the wrong title on that one?
Haunted Hill. Are you talking about like the new one? On Netflix?
Well, there was one Vincent Price did, which was way back when.
Yeah.
And then I want to say that Liam Neeson and them redid one around the 90s. Liam Neeson?
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
But I liked those where it was more the Gothic, and it was just interesting. I mean, that was the genre of I sort of like, and I'll watch all of them. But that's the one where if I have a go-to and I have nothing going on, I'll watch a gothic horror movie, or I'll watch Cabin in the Woods, because that's just like just fun, right?
Cabin in the Woods is great. That is a really fun horror movie. It's oh man, it's a comedy, and this and that's fine too. It's entertaining all around. It makes fun of all the tropes, makes fun of the whole thing, while having fun with it and trying to actually pull off some scares, some interesting stuff. My favorite moment is when Chris Hemsworth wants to be the hero and he's on the motorcycle.
Yes.
And he takes that jump. Oh, it's so fucking great. It's so fucking great. It's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to go back for help.
And what's great is it's going to happen. That's what made it so good. Is that it's going to happen. And he's like, I'm going to bring back guns. I'm going to bring up people. We're going to destroy everybody.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a moment everyone in the theater clapped. Everyone was like, they busted out laughing. It was great. Oh, man. And you see, that's an experience that's gone now because of COVID. Like, theaters they're pretty much done, right? They're done
for a couple of years anyway, right? Until things get better. I'm hoping things come back. I don't know if the cruise line industry will ever come back, but I hope movie theaters come back.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to start having watch parties at our houses, I guess. I don't know.
Some states you go to jail for that, so you gotta be careful and not invite anybody that's gonna tattletale.
Well, not in Texas. In Texas, we're fine. Texas, man, in commie California land, yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, see, I moved from Virginia to North Carolina now, and it's one where I'm like, yes, I'm finally more in the South. So they've got just as many restrictions, but nobody pays any attention to them. I was at one restaurant, and I swear to you, the sign said, our dining room is closed because of government orders. We're only doing takeout. If you want to use the tables to eat your takeout, that's fine, but the dining room is closed.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
So they weren't having any parts of it.
I mean, people are getting tired of staying in their homes. They're getting tired of it. They're getting tired. You're not going to be able to control people like that. And they think they can. But that's a whole other topic. I don't want that to ruin the conversation about shadow people in your book, Keep in the Light. Which by the way, people check out definitely if you like shadow people and paranormal stuff. Before we wrap up here, what is your elevator pitch for those that are on the fence to getting your book?
Keep in the Light is about a young lady who is trying to make it through society. She's just trying to do her best. And at the end of the day, it's her and her family that have to stick together to survive this supernatural entity that's chasing them. So check it out. Keep in the Light.
Keep in the Light. And what happens if she doesn't keep in the light?
Very bad things happen with shadows. It's one where the way I did it was if there's light, then the shadows don't have as much power or can't come out because they're shadows, right? Makes perfect sense. But it's something where they do have some other abilities, and sometimes the lights don't always work, and that's not a good thing. Yeah. So.
And by the way, in the chat, Kaiser, you're a good guy. All right, I know you seem like you're down right now. Okay, but don't worry, things will get better. In fact, guys, the vibe I like to do here, and I hope you got this from the show, is a good positive vibe. All right, especially on the daily rant and chills I try to do around noon, a positive vibe. Okay, we just sort of on those streams we sort of just kick back, relax, talk about whatever is pretty much on the mind, and just positive vibes, because there's all sorts of stuff that can get us down. I wouldn't say ignore them, but I mean do what you can about them. But at the end of the day, there's things that you just can't handle, things that you can't change, that are just, Musser, I'm being very vague, but you get what I'm talking about. Like, do you ever get in a bad headspace, like kind of like down or depressed or whatever? Okay. Yeah. What are your ways on handling that?
What helps me is to focus on the little victories. And what I mean by that is depending on how far down you are, right? The little victory may be, I brushed my teeth and combed my hair today. That's a little victory. I made my bed today. Tomorrow I'm going to make my bed again. Think of those little victories, no matter how much pain you're in, no matter what's going on in your life, and figure out, hey, tomorrow I'm going to do this. And then it gets a little bit better. You're focusing on the small victories. If you go to the gym, it's, hey, I lifted 5 pounds more today than I did yesterday. So I'm going to get better, and just take it like that. Don't just think about all of the things going wrong, because yeah, we can all list 1,000 different things going wrong in different people's lives we know, in our lives, what have you. Mm-hmm. But if you can just focus on that small victory, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, or hey, I'm going to write a book. And, I wrote a story and I published something. And that was something that a lot of people say they're going to do, but never do. And the way I did it was one word at a time. Each word was a little victory. And so for me, that helps more than thinking about oh my gosh, I've got all this going wrong. Yes, people are in debt and all that good kind of stuff, and there's big problems going on in the world. But if you can take care of the small stuff first and get yourself going in the right direction, whether it be money-wise or life-wise, then I think it's going to help. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and I am not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV.
Right. But what you said though is very important there, because even the small things, even like something as simple as making your bed, not to be like not to belittle it or anything, but from my experience, if I don't make my bed in the morning, I'm like super lazy. I see my bed, I know it's freaking lazy. All I have to do is take some time to make that, and then I feel a little bit better about myself. I know it sounds small, it sounds almost insignificant, but you take that little step, and you do feel a little bit better about yourself. It's a small accomplishment, yeah, but you did that, and then when you look at your bed, you don't think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm just some slob. That's my slob bed. It actually looks good,
Yeah, and it can even be things like, the little victory could be, tomorrow I'm going to find some reason to laugh, whatever it be. I'm going to laugh tomorrow. I don't care if I'm crying all day long, but I'm going to have something I'm going to be laughing about.
Right.
And the thing for me is, I'm a generally positive person anyway. So it's something that, I think there's a screw missing or something just in general. And maybe that's what helps me in the writing. But it's something that whenever I talk to people, I'm like, hey, small victories, make your bed, find something to laugh about, find something to like, go out and pick a flower, for goodness sake, something that'll give you 30 seconds of enjoyment.
Like the stuff you're saying to me is like stuff like even my son does, like my kids do that, and they enjoy their life, and they're doing like simple things, small things, of course they don't have the worries right now. They don't have the troubles. They don't have the stress that I do, or you do, or you guys in the chat do. But think about your kids, if you have kids, or when you were a kid, like your small accomplishments were just, beating a level in a video game, or reading this book, or going out and playing, or going out and just honestly, dude, going out and just going for a walk. I mean, just clear your head a little bit. Try to distance yourself from all the negativity as much as you can. I would say, really, if it's what I think it is, if it's like all this political stuff, distance yourself from it for a while, because what good is it going to do for you to be plugged into it? That's what I've done, and let me tell you, man, I'm much more chill, much more relaxed.
my brother puts it best when he talks about stuff. He's saying, don't let people rent space in your head. And if you think about it, a lot of times you end up focusing on the negative. So right. In fact, sometimes I'm going to write, and there'll be something that's going on, whether it's busy at work, busy at whatever, busy at life. And I'm like, wait a second, I've got to get all of that out of here. So don't let them rent any space in my head, because I'm going to the gym for an hour and I'm going to work out, or I'm going to work out at home, or do something to better myself. So when it comes to those types of problems, you got to find some way to not think about them for 5 minutes tomorrow. and maybe it's 10 the next day, then it's an hour, whatever it is. But that's, again, my personal opinion.
You know what, though? It's not a bad opinion. It's good. I mean, it helps you, and it helps. I think people relate to it. I relate to it. Anyway, Mr. Musser, it's been great having you on the show on Hard Talk Radio. It's not every show where we give a little life advice on how to be positive, but I think people could use it, you know? Look at us. Look at us. We're like life coaches now.
Hey, we're solving the world's problem. That'll be your next podcast.
Solving the world's
Dave and Deadman, or Deadman and Dave's life coach podcast. We'll start that next week.
That'd be funny. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far, press the like button, share, subscribe. Definitely check out David R. Musser's book, Keep in the Light. The link is in the chat. I'll drop it in again. Okay. Like I said, I'm gonna run a little raffle to see who's gonna get a free copy, and I'll give that information to David, and you'll be in contact. I mean, pretty much. You know, the hard thing about that is after I do that, how do I get in touch with you guys? Because right now we're using the YouTube chat, and afterwards there's no real way for me to like look up your account, because I don't think YouTube allows me. No, because they got rid of that feature where you can like look up someone's profile.
Maybe they could reach out to you on Facebook, or reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah, they could do that. You know what? That might be a better thing. Okay. Is he on Audible at all? You're getting an Audible version, right? It's in the works.
An Audible version. Andy McCain's working on it, and it should be out by the end of the year is what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Look, I will put in here, because not everyone's gonna have a Discord either, so they don't need to join. Here, send me the link to. You're on Facebook. You have like a Facebook page. Okay, I'll drop that in there in the chat. This might change things. I'll drop it in there in the chat, and then people can they can message you, and what I'll do is I'll let Mr. Musser decide who gets that free copy. There we go. Oh. See, the ball's out of my court. I don't even have to worry about it.
So what I will do is whatever messages I get, I will take and put them all in a hat. We'll give them till tomorrow at noon. Let's say that, and that way they can do that. I'm sending it to you in the chat now, and then you can send it to them. You will like my Facebook name. I felt very good about myself that day.
I'll save it. Take a look here.
And I think I can actually post it in the chat as well. So I think I just did on the YouTube. It's facebook.com/DMWebGod.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. DMWeGod. DMWeGod. All right.
Yeah. So have them message me, and then I will take and do the raffle thing, for all that send me a message by noon tomorrow.
Okay, here we go. All right, the link to his Facebook page is in the chat. Click that, message David, all right, and he will take care of giving out the free paperback. There you go.
Excellent. And it's available on Kindle Unlimited, so anybody who has that already, feel free to read for free, because that's what Kindle Unlimited is for. And I appreciate you having me on the show.
It's no problem, man. Definitely bring you on again if you want to talk more about shadow people or paranormal stuff or anything else kind of related. We'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good one.